Lighting. One of the most underrated useful tools in the gaming industry for anybody who's new to the world. Lighting can be used for many, many different things, from creating the feel of an atmosphere to changing the entire style of a game. I hope to go over and teach you all many different things on why this skill is important to have and why it can be beneficial to your games. Alright, so there are many reasons why I wanted to make that little intro. And it's because I've seen so many games, mostly indie games, some very rarely AAA games, where you notice that the lighting is just not good, or is so blatantly basic that it's just, it doesn't sell the feeling of the area. I built this little thing, this little area in order to show just some basic parts of lighting, and then I reduplicated it multiple times. So here's the daytime scene, taking some spotlights with our little lights, and I just wanted it to feel like you're inside of a little bit of a hallway for a house. I wanted it to feel calm, peaceful, and really just sell it using just lighting. So I took this area, and as I said, I duplicated it multiple times. So everything in this scene is the exact same as the prior level. But yet, the difference is rather large. I've talked about using lighting as well as a couple of other tools from post-processing to be able to really sell your scenes. So the reason that nothing's happening right now is I have the camera turned off. If I turn it on, we can see what the lighting originally was with the actual camera setup. So you'll see areas are super dark where there's no light. There's a bit of light right here because the door is using indirect lighting correctly to light that stairway. But then there's also a small light upstairs coming down. It's a little indication that you can go up there. There are all these little important details that are required to make lighting really shine. And as I said, you can take it a step further, go to metering mode, set it to manual, and it goes dark. If you set this to 9, it should return back to where it was, if not close. Turn on ISO, and then slowly raise it up until you find what you like. And as you can see, it looks beautiful, but we can also take another step further and scroll down to local exposure. In local exposure, I've talked about this a few times, the shadow contrast. If I turn this back up, the shadows get really powerful. But I could slowly turn it down. I get this beautiful nighttime scene that still looks like nighttime, but you can see all parts of the house. Just that little bit can change from a dark scene to a really stylized scene. And then you see this little glow right here, a little slight dream. That's from the bloom here. If I lower that a little bit, you'll see that it darkens, the light around it, it doesn't glow. So that mixed with this setup of lighting really just makes this area glow and feel kind of like you're going through a dream. So your music can help. I would say music and lighting together are some of the most important tools you can use, especially when you're making games that are like horror games and such, or some really story driven games that don't have audio going. Your animations and stuff will make everything look good, but if the audios don't match, everything feels off. Same thing with the lighting. If the lighting doesn't match the world, it looks off. So there's a few things that I really wanted to go over with lighting, because they're also important when you're having characters talk. So let's go look at my character lighting level. So here we have just a scene showing a simple character here. Let's hide all of the lights so we can really set up. But I really wanted to show you as we have our camera and we have our fill and key lights. Why these are so important is they'll really sell the detail of the character. So if I hide them, I've also got my directional light and skylight. So if I hide all of the lights and I just look, you see blank of course, but then let's show the directional light. It looks okay. Let's show the skylight. So Now you can see everything, but the character looks flat on most ends. But you see this little backlight looks really nice. If I turn on my spotlights, that one's just emphasizing this light over here if we didn't have the directional light. Then I turn this one on, and now you could really see the detail on the character. So this simple light right here, it may seem disingenuous, but it's to really sell that cinematic feel because you don't want your character to look bland and boring on the screen because if they look flat, then it looks off and it also doesn't give as much interest. And one thing you want to do is give your players or viewers the best experience you can for your movie or game. Even for your renders, it can be used really well. Like I said, if I hide the other lights and I just use that little light over here, I still get a little bit of detail on the character. If I hide the skylight too, now we've got this strong detail right here. We can really see what we're working with. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is that I've seen a lot of games where you'll go into a cutscene and people wonder why these lights are here. They're very important because they fill in those little bland details that you wouldn't normally see in a cutscene on some newer developer's game. So if you look right here, again, no detail, and then we add that one light right there. Now his jacket's got all this detail. You can see the wrinkles and everything, and you can tell that this flap goes forward over the rest of the jacket. And if we come here, we can go in here. So I've set it up without the buildings. If I pilot it, you see the opposite light being a little too strong over here. But yet, you can still see some detail. That's because I wanted to play with the lights a little. If I take this light over here that's in the background, I can raise it up, and now his details kind of shine. Then I want to lower over here, and there we go. Let's hide the point light that's there. So playing with these two lights, I got this beautiful light over here that shows a shine on his back. If I go over to this light, I can turn it up, and you'll notice that his face is very dark. In some scenes, that's okay, but not all scenes. So what we're going to do is we're going to take another light, we're going to duplicate this one, we're going to use these to move this light forward or back. And just these simple bits, even in a blank scene, can really sell that your character's here to do something. And if you want to add a little bit extra, you can even point it to the floor and use indirect lighting to light the character. So if I set this to like 7, now the character has details along the whole thing. The backlight's too bright now. Let's lower that a little bit. And even if it's just that slight light, it's still just enough to get a tiny bit of detail in there. All of these things are very important when you're selling a scene. Because then when you tie in everything else, then the character is shown to be the focus. They have the most detail. There's an extra light, but a lot of the time the player won't notice. If you look back at the other scene, those lights, they may not look like, they may not look natural, but to someone who's not setting the lights up, it will look natural and it'll make it look 10 times better in their eyes. So after that, there's a few things to look at for lighting that's important. I wanted to talk about indirect lighting. So indirect lighting, I have said a few times, is when light hits something and bounces off. Here I really wanted to show that. So if I turn off the indirect lighting, which I have done right here, if I click here, go down, indirect lighting is turned off. If I look around, I can see the light on the floor, but there's nothing on the ceiling. It's because there's no light bouncing off the floors, the walls, anything. But then I go next door to the light that has indirect lighting, I can actually see the ceiling. And I believe this is at 3? No, it's at 5. So it's a little bit exaggerated on how powerful it is, but that's also because the ceiling is so high. If I were to lower it a little, it would become far stronger. So let's go ahead and lower it. You'll see that this ceiling is lit up by this light on the floor and it really shows everything. This is without any post-processing. And I wanted to do the same over here. I've got no indirect lighting right here. The light is just on the wall and it creates this overly dark area. But if I go over here, think if you had like a spotlight, a floodlight or something just pointed at a wall. you wouldn't want it to just light that spot right there. You would want it to light multiple things off of how bright it is. So if I had something super bright, like let's say a floodlight right here, if I pointed it at the wall, it should be lighting this entire area like this. If I go over here and gave it the same intensity, 53, which is a bit exaggerated, but it gives a good idea. So the light is all right there, but it fades out right away. There's no light emitting off of it. So paying attention to your indirect lighting and using that effectively is very important. If we go back to my nighttime scene, we could relook at the door and look at how it's lighting the staircase. If I get rid of the spotlight up there, there we go. The entire door is lit, but there's not a single light that's on in this entire room. But yet that door is very visible and we can really see right here this little light coming in. And even a slight change to color of your light can do worlds of change to your scene. So if I took this light and I changed it to a pale blue color, it can add both a dreamy or ominous feel depending on how you use it. If I wanted to take it a step further and I wanted to go to like a slight red light, the area feels warm now. So it's also important to use it to tell temperatures. So if I use red, it's normally a warmer color. Blue is a bit cooler color. Blue can lead to a bit more calm. And then there's another scene that I wanted to show that will be another exaggeration, but it really sells things. It's a little eerie, but if we take some lights, let's put in some point lights down there and some spotlights a little bit higher. The area feels strange, but what if we add a slight color to the light? What if we wanted to make it seem cool and almost desolate here? We could take the lights, give them slight color, back them away, and then we can match that color with the fog. And the area feels a little different. The skylight's a little powerful. That's why it wasn't updated. There we go. So with these point lights right here, the area feels a little strange. But then we put some spotlights in to really sell the mood we're going for. And then I'll match the color of the other. There we go. Now we've got this much stronger light going through. And it changes this to a slightly lit, cool scene. But what if we wanted to make it eerie? We could go into the lights and actually go to a twisted green. Now, and then we go to the fog and match that twisted green. Now we go to our spotlights and match that twisted green. And then we raise them a little bit more. I say a little bit, but then I mad jumped it. But yeah, then you get this really strange light from below, and it doesn't look natural at all. But it's matching the feel that we're going for. And then you peek over and you can't see below, but you see these glowing lights. And then all you have to do to really sell it is just go deeper and deeper with those lights. And eventually the fog will hide them. So yeah, there we go. So it lights up and goes down and then it just vanishes. But then if you really wanted to go a step even further, you can add a slight emissive to your fog. So you can give it that eeriness. And that really sells this place is not a place to be messed with. And just these simple things working in tandem, the light, the fog, all of it together is just such a powerful tool that I see so many games not take advantage of or just have forgotten or not go even not go far enough with. With situations like this, it's really beautiful to tie in tandem and remember that lighting isn't just placing a light to be able to see. It's placing a mood, a feel. It can even be a major, major part of the atmosphere. Like these green fogs, they look great, but if I get rid of these lights, kind of just doesn't match. It doesn't look right. But then as soon as I re-add them, everything really gets sold again. So that's why I really wanted to go over this, is because as I've said, I've seen a lot of games ignore these. And that to show you just how important it is to have really thought out lighting. I hope this gives you something to think about, and I hope it taught you something. And with that, I hope you had a really good day.